Hey, what's up, everyone? On this episode, we bring you part 2 of Unidentified. We talk about episodes 5 and 6 and give you our closing thoughts on the show. Also, if you haven't checked out the first part of this series, go to episode 43 and give that a dabble. If you have not done so, you know you can find Gentlemen No Class on all platforms of where you listen to your podcast. So once you find us, do us a solid, subscribe to our channel, drop us a review. That would help out a lot. And if you like YouTube, do us a solid by subscribing to that channel as well. All the support helps us out tremendously. You have no idea. So on that note, I hope you guys enjoy the show.
This podcast contains explicit language and is intended for adult audiences. The views and opinions of Gentlemen No Class are strictly for comedic purposes and should not be taken literally. For instance, like this disclaimer. Now grab yourself a pint and enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of Gentlemen No Class, a podcast that when the going gets weird, the weird turn pro. I'm Jake.
I'm Big Josh.
And Paul.
I'm Rob.
And like it or not, gentle ladies and you sexy gentlemen, we are the hosts. What's up, guys?
What up? Paul lost some weight.
I did.
Yeah.
There we go.
In 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's been months.
Pretty
but
incredible, right?
It's that cocaine.
Yeah.
It's a hell of
If
a
anybody is asking for a before and after picture, Paul will gladly show you.
drug. Gladly.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it
pretty-
was
One's fresh out of prison look,
Oh
and the
my
other one's the
goodness.
Huckleberry Fitness. Yeah.
Hey, in all fairness, that was like an undershot.
Which one?
Paul. Hey, no one looks good on
The
an
prison
undershot.
one or the Huckleberry Fitness?
Both. They're both undershots.
Oh yeah.
the Huckleberry.
That I do, yeah.
He killed it though.
All right,
yeah.
so some current events. What do we got for current events?
Yeah, what do we got for current events? Anything?
A lot of shit.
I saw
A lot of
Spider-Man Far From Home.
I
yeah?
did see that. How was that?
Did you see it?
No, I saw that you saw
Oh, you
it.
saw that. I saw it.
Yeah, yeah.
Vicariously. It was extremely good. It was a good way to close out
say that for
the
every
Phase
MCU
4. I do.
universe.
I'm a whore.
Fucking bias, man.
But I will say this, like I don't like how they announce like who the characters are beforehand, like who the bad guys are, because like I don't know, like you figure it out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like watching it. Like the movie ends on too good of a note for Spider-Man, and I like the twist that they did at the very, very end that kind of throws it back at him, and you're just like, "Fuck, that sucks." And one of the best pieces of casting that in any comic book movie ever since, you know, way back in the day
Ever.
was the casting of J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson in the original Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was great. That's
So,
Yeah.
spoiler alert,
good. Oh, come on. Come on.
he's back as J. Jonah Jameson in this iteration of
Bam!
Spider-Man.
Nice.
Yeah.
They brought him like he pops up and you're like, the whole theater started cheering. I was like, fuck yes, that was
he's good.
awesome. I
good.
mean, yeah, I mean, you know, you take a good casting role, I guess, and you just roll with it. You know what I
I
mean?
should
You
have
got
watched
to.
it before I came here.
you gotta
I had
do?
time.
I mean, you could have watched the Unidentified episodes that
That's
you didn't
cool.
watch.
Badoo.
I'll play Dev that.
Yeah, where's that,
Don't worry about it.
I gotta label those because I don't remember
That
what
was a
they
little
are.
slow action right there.
Yeah, it's a little far away.
It's a little, that action's a little loose right there.
Ooh.
That's a guitar reference.
So,
Yeah, no shit.
have you been watching that TV show that I told you about?
No, I haven't. I know
Have you
told
watched
me-
it?
I wanted, yeah, when I started Stranger Things, though, I just got
Oh man,
taken
I
over.
just
Sorry.
started continuing
I'm
on
halfway
living my
through.
life.
Just, I'll get to it. That seems like a good show I want to
Dude,
watch.
if you,
I like dialogue
to all of our
comedy.
listeners. If you haven't already, I feel like I'm super late on this, but there's a television show on Hulu called Letterkenny. Holy shit, it's one of the funniest shows I've seen in a long time. Super original, dialogue driven. Me and Paul watched a couple episodes over here. Jake, you were
Jake
here
was
too,
here
weren't
too.
you?
Yeah, I was here.
Yeah.
I was just that's quiet. But no,
I just figured you didn't get it. So
no, it's a good episode, good show. So I mean, the first episode what I saw, I mean,
yeah, it was anyway. So
kind of
like,
original.
Yeah.
it's an interesting concept for a show. It's kind of like Trailer Park Boys mixed with like Kevin Smith and
No, it's like Trailer Park Boys mixed with It's Always Sunny.
You
Yeah, that's a
kinda
good.
say that. Yeah.
Oh wow,
I could see that. Yeah.
have to check that out.
So, any other current events besides me just showing these
just
guys
too much bullshit in the political
Metallica
spectrum. We
memes?
can't talk about that.
We're not doing that yet.
I know.
Nope.
I'm curious, what's going on? 4th of July happened yesterday.
Yeah.
What
yeah.
did you guys do besides
America.
Rob being a flat tire?
Hey man, why you got to put my personal business
Hey
out
man,
there, bro?
you threw it all over Facebook.
That's true.
When
Fair
you do
game.
that, it's free game, baby.
Oh, is that true now?
True.
All right, I didn't know that's the rules we were playing under.
Oh, ties are
Challenge
spinning.
accepted.
The 4th, yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
went to a
4th.
brewery last night. I went
Did
to
you
B52 in Conroe. That was pretty cool. I saw Brandon there, Dowell.
Oh, Dow.
Yeah.
Shout out to
So it was
Brandon
cool.
Dowell.
Shout out. Pretty sexy.
Yeah, pretty good beer.
When you say pretty good beer, what'd you try?
Like
I
Miller Lite,
had-
probably. It's always good, right?
Yeah, always.
They had a good variety. I don't know if you heard of B52 Brewery in Conroe, but
No,
I've never
it
heard of it.
sounds terrible.
No, it's pretty cool. It's pretty
They're our
nice.
sponsor.
Like they have a.
Another one.
I like
And
the layout. Like
another
it's out in the
one.
trees out there in Conroe. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a lot of games set up, and the beers are pretty cool. They have.
Well, I'm a
ones
minority.
I
I had no
have-
business in Conroe. Just saying.
There's plenty.
You
Of,
might.
there was some there yesterday, I think.
You might. There's a lot of yard work.
But I was like a milky stout. It was like with like a Sprite. It had Sprite in it, and it was a sour. It was good. It was really good. And also I forgot what else I had.
You don't know the name of it.
No, I forgot the name of it. They had so many names, and
Yeah.
it was pretty cool though.
Oh. So you like
Not
you
bad.
like the experience.
Yeah.
How did it differ from other breweries you may have gone to? To experience?
I don't know. I guess just different types of beers, and the atmosphere is pretty cool. Like I said, it just really they have a huge lot where they there's a bunch of trees around, and
Nice.
it's really laid back. It's really nice. I like that. That's what really stuck out to me is
Let me ask you a real question. Did you slap the shit out of somebody who was English?
no.
Because that's
Who's
what you
English?
should have done.
What do you mean? Oh, because
4th of fucking July,
yeah, well,
dude.
nobody was around, so I couldn't do it.
So
Yeah.
we'll do a short history
we
lesson.
watched Independence Day. I tried to get my daughter to actually pay attention during Independence Day. She would not. She was like, "This movie's stupid," and I was like, "You're fucking stupid."
God damn.
That's awesome. Hey, but going back to that brewery, man, like it seems like it's overly saturated.
Yeah.
Everybody's opening up a brewery.
Yeah.
You
Or
gotta
it's a
try
distillery.
There's a lot of
You gotta
a lot
try
of them
new
out there.
things.
a lot of
to
breweries.
But
bring
in a
lot
way,
of
that's
customers.
good. If you're into breweries and if you're a beer connoisseur, it's cool
Absolutely,
to
absolutely.
check out the.
The problem is
variety.
most people are not beer connoisseurs.
wanna
They
get drunk.
just
Well,
they
some
think
people
they
are.
are.
My buddy that I went with, he's really into craft beers and stuff.
And
he knows
that's
a lot
great.
about
What
it.
I'm trying to say is like the brewery you went to did they try any new? Because you got Ingenious Brewery that tried different things,
Right.
by throwing the ice cream stuff.
Yeah,
or-
I mean,
guess, well,
they're
maybe
trying
they're
new things. I
fusion
don't
of
know
like
that
they're
that's a
sticky.
good
There
There
idea.
is a
I think it's-
shitload of beers they had that was I think they had maybe 24 to 25 on tap there. They had a pretty good selection, but as far as sticking out from compared to other ones, like I said, I mean it seems like almost like like an average brewery. I mean it wasn't terrible. I had a good time. I'd probably go back again. It's not that far from my house, but sticking out, I wouldn't say anything particular.
Okay. Nice.
It doesn't wow. There wasn't like an actual like wow factor. or
Or like
anything. That
Eureka
really-
Heights, you
Well,
know
but-
how they have a tie for business time. That's
Yeah.
clever. It's hilarious. I'll
Right.
drink
Yeah,
it.
they have puns and
Yeah.
throwback nostalgic.
Yeah, they kind of had.
Well, because it's
they
all
had
about
one,
the experience now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had one that was it was something. It was a local reference. My buddy was explaining to me. It's like I don't know if you remember this. It's like you get $1 if you do a book report or something.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Rapdar Gab.
Yeah,
Hell
they
yeah.
have they have a beer
Read a book.
based on it.
Read a
Yeah,
book.
it's pretty funny.
Do a report.
And they have it.
a dick.
Yeah, they have it. They have the pictures on the beer, and I don't know. It's kind of clever.
nice.
And they have
So
shit
is
like
it
that.
is it Rapdar Gab? There, like you read a book, do a report, get a beer.
Yeah, sure. Why
That
not?
is-
I guess.
that's a reward system.
Yeah,
that will
That's a
pay you
good
in
way to
beer?
get 12-year-olds
Initiative.
drunk, man. That's awesome.
And there was a kid on the
really
beer.
awesome.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's
There was a
pretty
kid drink on the beer. He was like on the sauce.
no.
We got to turn in a
This is the
report.
kid
I
doing
mean,
a
he's
report.
not stupid.
But yeah.
It's Conroe, man.
That's
Conroe, man.
That's where Aquaman came from.
lives, bro. That's where he originated from, man.
Conroe edition.
So do you guys have like Facebook groups associated to your neighborhood? I'm sure you do.
yeah.
No, well, I don't know. I haven't looked. I'm
kind
on
of
that
annoying
next
at
door
times.
app.
Next door, kind of the same sort.
Same here.
Was there a lot of bitching about the fireworks?
Oh,
I
always.
always say that. You bring this up all the time.
It just annoys me. And like someone this morning recorded video of their driveway, which I get. I'll be pissed, but it's like you're beating a dead horse. It's gonna happen.
Well, and it depends, right? Because if you're like my brother-in-law has a newborn, right, and so that's tough, right? Because you're trying to get the baby on the schedule.
Yeah, but you've got to know that.
You do.
Your rights can't infringe on anybody else's rights,
sure.
and you can't. I mean, the fact of the matter
That's
is
just
like
being
you
petty
should
at
have
that
known.
point.
Yeah, you should have known. Yeah, you have a newborn. You live in a spot where they're going to do fireworks. Figure
It's
it
just
out.
one night.
It's actually
get
1
pregnant on
week.
July
They don't
4th,
just
right.
do it July 4th. They do it like July
Really?
1st, 2nd,
Yeah,
3rd.
if you're
Yeah, they do.
okay, so I will get pissed off if people are shooting fireworks late at night, not on July 4th or New Year's Eve.
Oh
If
yeah,
it's
no,
like-
because in
I'm with
my
that.
ghetto ass neighborhood, these guys
They don't
work
give a fuck.
crazy ass hours, so they do the first, second, third, fourth, whatever they're
I don't
open.
think they
man.
work. I just think they don't give a fuck. That's what it is.
I don't know, bro. The work trucks that are outside my neighborhood. I mean, you could be right, but
Yeah,
I
respect,
I
for
agree
sure.
with you that you should be able to do fireworks whenever you want. It's your area too. I mean,
Yeah,
it is
but
what
I
it
mean,
is, but-
You don't live
all
out in the
within
country,
all
though.
within reason.
Yeah,
You know what I
you
mean?
gotta
Like
respect your neighbors. I think
you do,
I don't mind
and,
you,
and you
lighting
have to do
fireworks.
them. You have to do them safe because, like, we had a bunch
Yeah.
of like there was a bunch of cars that got damaged from
Yeah,
fireworks
that's
and stuff,
ridiculous.
and that really
God
sucked.
damn,
Oh, well,
fucking,
I'll
what
take
are they
it
doing?
this way.
Bottle rocket wars by them cars?
No,
Oh,
like they'll
man.
blow up and the sparks will come down on the cars.
okay,
They'll burn
gotcha.
through the clear
I'll
coat.
burn you.
So Jason Pierre-Paul from the New York Giants blew off 2 of his fucking fingers with
fun?
fireworks. Not for fun, but with
Oh, yeah, a couple
fireworks.
years
Did you,
ago.
Still played,
Yeah, a couple years ago. Yeah.
but blew his fucking fingers off.
Who was the defensive
Stupid
tackle
ass.
that just like had to have their leg
No,
amputated?
no, their
the
arm
Dolphins.
amputated. He
For
was
the
a
Dolphins.
Miami defensive tackle.
But he wasn't starting. He was competing for the roster. And
Right.
He actually was in the
And now he's not gonna
2018
make it.
draft.
Yeah.
And Panthers picked him up, but then they ended up working a deal for the Dolphins. And yeah, it sucks
Yeah.
for him.
So
he got in a car wreck.
now he's out.
He's out.
He pulled the Def Leppard.
Yeah.
What are you doing, you fucking queer?
Yeah, but yeah,
But yeah,
that sucks
so-
for that guy, man.
Oh,
It
fuck
really
me. It
does,
doesn't
man.
matter if I'm in the picture, I guess.
That was terrible. Hold on.
Wow.
There was a joke
you,
right
I'm
there.
in here.
I
Yeah,
am not
like-
gonna roll with that.
What? Because it's not a wide angle lens?
No, I
What
wasn't
the
going to say
fuck,
that. I
Paul?
was going to say we hardly noticed that you're here anyways.
Wow.
Yeah, so right now we're trying to
Bro,
do
your
a
phone has
a
epilepsy,
video. It's
dude.
just
What
kinda
the
like
fuck are
dead
you
air.
doing?
But
Why don't you just stop? Like, we're recording this. Like, this is nobody knows what's going on. Paul trying to fucking
Don't,
selfie
well,
the
then
room.
you don't. You just ignore me. Then I'll join back in.
All right, fine, fair enough.
Yeah, that's a good point there.
Yeah. So, Pablo, what'd you do
Okay.
for the 4th, man?
I went to my brother's house swimming, took pictures.
Oh, that's right.
I just rented this lens.
Rented?
Yeah, because I want to invest into the lens.
Some
But I
romantic
don't
wanna
shit,
see how it
dude.
looks?
Where do you
exactly.
rent?
You know, you don't buy
Houston Camera Exchange.
You
can
use
rent a
Camera
lens.
Exchange. I go
Yeah.
through lensrentals.com. They mailed it to me, and I mail it back to them on Monday.
Yeah, like you can. That's. I mean, that's the way to do it. You got $40,000, $50,000 lenses. You don't want to like if it's a one time off thing. You
Well,
can
right.
rent it for a couple $100.
See, and you can, if you really want into it, you could buy it then, right? Because you see what you
Right.
what
Yeah.
you like.
So
It
the
allows
lens,
you to try.
The
it.
lens it's a $600 lens. Brand
Oh,
new.
yeah, I was gonna
And
mention-
I don't want to throw $600 if I'm not gonna like it.
Is that
So
what you
Right.
just
only
got?
$30 to rent it for the week, and yeah, that's
Like that's a nice. I meant
rented
that.
it.
Okay. I noticed that fucker was huge. Like Jesus, man.
Yeah.
That's
Hey, I got
nice.
good pictures. I mean, for sure.
awesome.
Now you're onto something. I mean, that lens that gives you power.
No, it
that
does.
scares people. That scared me.
It's intimidating, right?
Yes, it is very much.
That lens was bigger than
thing was-
Paul's dick.
Exactly. It's fucking huge. Huge. Oh, terrible.
There you go.
Hey,
There you go.
I forget that we have it.
All right. But this soundboard's gonna be awesome.
Okay.
See,
at
you
least
laughed-
the
you
timing
thought that was
right.
funny.
Yeah. As long as you can be rich. I mean, that was us. Yeah. It's even me booing at myself. That's great.
Oh,
You're
you
right.
booed it yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a cliff.
Sink it. Sink it.
So
Yeah.
no
Go
one
on.
popped fireworks at all.
I did.
No, I didn't.
No, I fell asleep.
No, see?
I got invited to go
I
downtown.
popped the
to
tire.
see-
That's
There we go.
you popped something, all right.
Dang, that sucks.
There you go.
What? No bottle rocket wars this year. Maybe later for New Year's.
Yeah,
We'll
I went to my buddy's house and played dominoes like a real third ward American. Yeah, it was a good time.
Nice.
we're gonna
True
get
American.
hashtag ban gentlemen no class.
For what? What for? What do we do now?
I don't know.
I don't think there's anybody
bound to
here
happen,
that drives
right?
through Third Ward. Listen, I'm gonna tell you a real story though. The last time
go ahead.
Jake and I were in Third Ward, we beat a few kids at a basketball game.
Now, how old were these kids?
I think we at the time may have been 25,
Give or take. Yeah.
give or take. And the kids were probably there was this bald kid who was probably I want to say 12, maybe.
Is he bald
maybe
on purpose?
11. Yeah, bald on purpose.
Okay. Go
And
on.
then another Rick James Jerry Curl dude
Yeah.
who was probably around the same age. And I
No,
still
I
remember.
think, man, I
Was he a little-
Yeah, he was younger. I think
He was
I
younger?
want to say he was like 9.
Okay.
Jesus, okay.
8 or 9, man.
Guys,
Yeah.
there's a couple of tough guys here messing
Oh.
with a 9-year-old and a 12. Go
Let
on,
me just
go on.
say we crushed it. Let me just say that we crushed
Playing basketball?
these 11-year-olds.
What,
in
you
the
fall
hood.
on them?
No. We scored. We took it. We went hard in the paint, as they call it.
Fucking asshole. I will take another one too.
Pablo was doing some Akeem Olajuwon shit at 25.
No,
out there
I
in
was
Third
doing the
Ward.
Karl Malone.
Doing the
where I
dream-
was-
the
I was
dream
driving-
shake? Man.
No, what I was doing, I was driving into the lane and I had my leg out to get the fuck out of my way because
Right.
you're about to catch
That's a big leg.
face
Against
full
an
of,
11-year-old
yeah.
who had some actual skills, as I remember it.
yeah,
And that may be a fish story in my head. He had some actual skills. But the last time we were in the Third Ward, Jake and I whooped up on some 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
And really took it to the house. Then they told us they were gonna go get their brothers or
They play a real game, and I think that's when we left.
yeah, that's when we decided that we were gonna exit that
Terrain.
Right, that terrain.
So-
yeah.
One of the things I remembered is Beth Chapman died.
Oh.
Dog the
good-
bounty
yeah,
hunter's
that's right.
wife.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Kind of came out of
Terrible.
nowhere.
And that was breast cancer, is that correct?
She, I thought it was
did-
lung or
Or
throat.
lung cancer.
Throat.
Lung cancer.
Throat cancer,
Or throat
that's right.
cancer. Cancer.
Let me just say this. Those were a nice set.
Throat.
Oh,
Cancer.
were they?
Those were a nice
Man,
set.
that was-
But the face was not the greatest, though.
I don't care about the
I
face.
don't know. That was nice.
I don't care.
Big does
I don't
not
care.
mean it was nice.
No.
But I don't care for big tits myself.
Oh,
But,
bro,
you know,
I like
hey.
to see them swing like helicopter
I bet
blades,
you do.
bro. Yeah. Get in where you fit in, player. I like to see them things swing.
Look at no.
Oh, Jesus
Well, I mean,
Christ.
that's good for you because
Yeah, so
I
that's
you know,
crazy.
the big tits need love too, and I just can't provide that.
Paul,
That's just not me.
I like them to
So
be
hold on,
roughly
time
the
out,
size
time
of
Tiny
your
ones
head.
are fine.
I like
you're
them the
the
size of
last
your head, Paul.
2 people on
Not
Earth
me.
and mankind rests on your shoulders, you're not going to
You
bang?
gotta put that pressure on me
You're
right
not going
now.
to bang because their tits are a little bit big?
He
Or
didn't
what?
say
I
he wasn't
didn't
going to
say-
bang. He just said that
He said he wasn't
going to
provide any love.
I said I have
His
a choice.
preference,
I have
right,
a
his
choice. If I have a
preference.
choice,
Oh,
I will
okay.
choose
Right.
not
Oh,
to.
okay.
fucking-
Paul
No.
likes those willow doll looking women.
Yeah,
So if I-
he's got it.
I'll-
Alabaster
I'll
willow
take it.
doll
So
looking
if I'm
women.
facing
That's what
life
he
in
And
wants.
if there's
Willow.
any of you that,
The willow
that
dolls, the wooden carved out chicks with no faces, and they're all with no bodies. They're
so
built like
basically,
8-year-old
if
boys.
any of you
Oh, I
ladies
know.
that describes your body, just let me know. I'm around.
Right.
I'm
I
around.
kind of doubt it, but
If the
love
sun
it.
hasn't
I'm around.
touched your body in
Yes,
about a
he's
decade,
got it. You are describing
come
my
get
lady.
Paul Mooney, man. If you got
Yes.
these little bitty nips,
If you're
not the
pale.
Stevie Wonders, but the little bitty,
No breasts, just big areolas and
big
nipples.
areolas,
fucking sick.
pepperoni-sized
I
areolas.
don't want her
man.
chest to go inside her, be negative. Like,
No, but you want
no
like the-
evolution whatsoever.
No, but you
I
want like
some.
the
I want-
Oscar Mayer,
I want a mound at
baloney-sized
least.
nipples, bro, with like the flat.
give me a hill. I mean,
A
I'm
hill?
so- I mean,
You know,
I want
just
a hill, not a
bag of
dish. I'll take
sands.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, a big nipple that sticks off of it,
Oh,
a good
yeah.
2 inches.
Something you can hang on, Paul. That's what you need, man.
Jesus.
Turns around and puts your eye out. You know what I'm saying, Paul?
God.
If she can also write, help me write music and comedies, and we got to.
Now you're asking too fucking
Yeah.
much, man.
No, bullshit.
Now you're
She's out
asking
there.
too much. No, she's
She's
not out there.
She's not out there.
Yes, she is. I don't give a shit. Never said.
Anyway.
Go on, gentlemen. Go on.
My bad.
All right,
Okay.
so current events? We wrapped up on.
Yeah, let's not talk about
Current
Antifa
events?
because I got in a fight with those motherfuckers.
Let's talk about who?
Not them, but some of the people that it's ridiculous. I try to
I
be.
thought you said you don't want to talk about it.
No,
I'm kinda
hold
curious.
on. Let me,
Now I'm
hold on.
kind of,
Okay,
especially if you got in a fight with them.
let's put it this way. I was just being not necessarily devil's advocate. I just wanted to know an unbiased opinion. Just coming in like not knowing, and I want to understand like some of these problems with people having with Antifa and all this shit. I know what they are, and if you're not familiar with who they are and what they do, they stand for they're anti-fascist, and they're really a radical group. They should be labeled as a terrorist because a terrorist group because of what they do. They go to these so-called, I don't know what they have, event, I don't know, like march or protest or something like that. They're violent. They're violent fucking people. Like when you talk, if you don't agree with them, if you're not on their side, then you're against them automatically, and they will attack you.
Oh,
they wear masks. They bring bats. They go crazy.
Oh, really?
So besides that, I just tried to, like, somebody posted some things on Facebook, and I just wanted to ask. And every time I ask, simply, like I said, I was like, hey, this guy's going off saying like, oh, all Republicans or conservatives are Nazis. He's just throwing the word Nazi like everybody likes to do. Just throw that word around, right? So I just simply asked him and other people too, like in similar, questions about like Antifa. I was like, hey, I don't know too much about it. I want to know, what do you know that I need to know that convinces me that these people, according to you, they're doing all right, and then all these other people you're calling Nazis are Nazis. What's the deal? Let me know. None of them respond.
You got yourself, but you found one keyboard warrior.
What they resort to also, like, I'll simply ask a question, like, explain, this asshole, I get a call, he calls me a bootlicker. I was like, really? That's your response? Very mature. And that's it. Like, I'm just being just simple and try to be civilized and try to find and understand. You cannot
in this day and age. You cannot have a civilized conversation.
You cannot conversate with these people.
And that's,
but hold on.
Ahead,
it's not even just on the left. It's people sometimes even on the right. Don't mistake me. It's like, oh, you're a leftist or blah. No, asshole. Like, I'm trying to fucking have a conversation and trying to find, how am I supposed to find out and understand your cause and whatever your fight is if you don't let me in and understand it. If you just immediately disregard me, call me a Nazi or whatever, it makes no fucking sense. Like, you cannot reason with these fucking people.
And where can you find this thread at?
Simpson shit postings.
The villain thrown out the window.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, argument legitimacy is gone on that.
Yeah. It doesn't matter because, like, you gotta find it where you can. I just started being legitimate, man. Hey. Either way, the point is I just wanted to ask a simple question. It wasn't just even that; it was on YouTube videos as well. Yeah. It had to do with actual Antifa, like the reference of the video. It had nothing to do with The Simpsons. But even like I got responses like, these people are just ridiculous with their fucking responses. But nonetheless, that they're just, it's the reason with these people. It's near impossible. It scares me. I just did it as an experiment because I wanted to know.
You can't be scared of those keyboard warriors.
No, man. Like, I'm just saying, like, in order to make progress and deal with problems and actually talk about it, they don't want to talk about it. They completely avoid it. Like I said, they completely disregard you and just no. It's like, how do you get it anywhere with that that attitude?
But that's the point.
Immature.
Paul. But that's the point.
Fucking
see how riled up you are?
Yeah,
you're letting them live up here rent free, player.
But no, I'm not.
Don't do it.
Okay, but I think I'm more tamed than I normally been for this kind of shit. Sure. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I just wanted to be civil and just just have an unbiased opinion. I just want to know, but I couldn't even get that. It's like, you know what? Forget it.
You have better luck.
It's like they wanted. That's their bullshit. Like, I don't want to even deal with it. I just wanted to see what it was about, but I couldn't even get any answers. Like, you know what? That's whatever it is. You guys can fucking have it.
Interesting. Wow.
Just go run and live your best life.
I'm going to search this stuff up. But on a lighter note, do you guys want to talk about aliens?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about aliens. We're going to take we're going to take a short break, refill some beers. When we come back, we're going to be wrapping up our podcast series on Unidentified, America's interest in the UFO investigation, whatever the fuck the name of the show is.
Very nice job.
The history of America's UFO investigations. Anyway,
Mr. Tom DeLong.
Yeah, from Mr. Tom DeLong. Like in the Urethra Chronicles, where he says his name, it's like a DeLong, Tom DeLong. It sounds like you're saying it through a big tube.
Don't worry, Tommy. We love you,
Tommy D.
Tommy D.
Anyway. So we'll be right back, and we'll be talking about the last couple episodes 5 and 6, and kind of our general wrap-up thoughts on the whole deal. This would be a good time for y'all to go get a beer. Well, that's what we're gonna go do.
Go get your dick sucked.
Or that.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Hey guys, if you haven't done so, please go by Eureka Heights Brewing Company. I don't know how many times I gotta say it. This beer is awesome. Go to 941 West 18th Street and you will not be disappointed. Trust me. In fact, if you're a fan of IPAs, I highly recommend Space Train. That's one of my favorite beers. Actually, it's one of my favorite beers of all time. And not because it's Eureka Heights. I mean, seriously. In fact, every time I go over there, that's the first beer I order. If I could buy this thing by the case, I would. Also check out the Mini Boss. That's a great IPA as well. But I prefer the Space Train. They also have Business Time, which is another... Dude, that's crazy. That's all I drink is Business Time, Mini Boss, and Space Train, which they're IPAs. That's insane. I just realized that. It's just so tasty. But if you really want to pound some beer, I definitely recommend some Buckle Bunny. In the M5 studio, we are down in a whole bunch of Buckle Bunnies here, and that is a definitely pound me beer. Definitely tasty. But my preference is Space Train. And again, the address there is 941 West 18th Street, Eureka Heights Brew Company. Don't miss out.
And we're back from that break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are back.
Here's the little secret. We took a break to actually watch the 6th episode of Unidentified.
That doesn't make us bad either.
They didn't need to know that.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
now
true.
it doesn't.
Jacob
No, it's
made
out
a
there.
point, valid
Yeah, it's
point.
out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't
We
going
can't
to...
take it back.
Yeah, over now. Well, I am editing this shit. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Jesus
Can't
Christ.
take it out. It'll be weird.
All right, so let's talk about what the whole purpose of, now that the show's wrapped, we've seen all 6 episodes. The whole purpose of this was to kind of bring into the forefront of the conversation the topic of UFOs and unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Sure.
I think that the big takeaway from the show is that they were able to get put into place a system that allows Navy pilots and such to report on things that they've seen without the stigma attached to it. Or you could also view this as a way that the government can officially document all the people that are reporting on,
Right.
on this. You know what I mean? So,
Well, I think it's the start of. I think for them, it's the start of the conversation. I mean, this was 6 episodes to kind of it's the lube before the fuck. So, they've got to get their.
Unless you have to lube, I mean, it
Well-
just shows the kind of player you are.
That's what it is. But
the
no,
lube, he didn't say like external lube. It could be natural lube. You know what I mean?
That's always
I
good.
guess. Okay.
totally.
I'm sorry. We're taking
No, you're
this
good.
to the,
So,
to the right.
so I think it's the. I
We're
think
taking
it's
it
the,
to the streets, Bubba.
That's right. I think it's the precipice of the. You like that? That was for Pablo.
Jesus.
Don't spit on the electronics. But it was the beginning of what their end goal is, right? Because obviously this now gives them the platform to say, okay, well now we've got everybody from the Italians to our own government to
I mean, the guy from Italy talking was a real big kind of eye opener. Talking about they experienced a craft that was actually hostile towards another one of their craft and hostile to other. Like it had, they said it was responsible for some of these fires in Sicily.
right.
That's pretty impressive because, like Luis Elizondo was saying, like this was the first report of a hostile engagement.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's pretty important when you think about it. The other thing that Jake and I were kind of talking about is if you look at these UFO videos, some of the ones that they're talking about, like not the Tic Tac one, but the other one that kind of looks like a gyroscope, whatever they call it, where you see it rotate. It kind of gives you a throwback to Bob Lazar when he's talking about how the craft that he worked on at S4 operated, and that was, he was saying that, like, a lot of people report that these things like fly through hyperspace or whatever you want to call it, sideways, horizontally, but Bob was saying that, no, they rotate belly forward where the gravity drives are, and then they move forward that way.
Right.
And that thing in the video does exactly what Bob Lazar says and Bob Lazar said that that's how those things operated back in the 80s. And then that video was from like 2004.
Well, not just that, but if you saw when the Italians gave him the zip drive and he was kind of thumbing through the information, there was like a list, or not a list, but there was a table that had different crafts on there. So, I mean, I think that kind of plays into all of that stuff, and a lot of those look pretty similar. I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of variance in there, but, you know, that's interesting stuff.
Well, see, it's funny that I did not hear about the whole, you know, like turning directions and going forward until I heard the Bob Lazar make that comment, and then we see this video in 2004. The spacecraft just turns vertical and kind of goes forward. It's insane. I also never heard about how these UAPs, UFOs, call them what you will, were congregating around these freaking nuclear power plants. And
nuclear sites.
And the last episode, they're talking about also in
following
war zones.
Yeah, following
like
nuclear aircraft carriers and the nuclear submarines and stuff like that.
But you know, if you were, I don't mean to cut you off, but if you were gonna, if you were gonna look at somebody's, if you had an advantage, a very big advantage, which is what this would be, if we're calling it other life, or if we're calling it another government with this technology.
Yeah,
right?
whatever.
That's what you would look at. That's what you would look at. Because I'd want to see how you're they even say in the show, in the last episode, I want to see how you're operating all this military equipment out there. It's why they're following their battle carrier groups to all these different areas. So I mean, there's a lot of play in that, but.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's exactly, you're right. You know, so like I'm sure that the craft reads some kind of radiation or energy signature, and you know they're following that, they're checking up on that, you know what I mean? So that's very interesting to me that like all these reports of, you know, UAP phenomenon, UFO phenomenon around nuclear sites, you know, nuclear missile silos, especially in the Midwest, and in that site, and what was the site name in the UK?
The forest of
Sherwood Forest or whatever it was,
or whatever the hell it is. Yeah.
And it's a neighborhood in Houston, Sherwood Forest.
That's where Robin Hood was. Dude.
No, but what I was getting back to, what I was saying is that, you know, I never heard that they were around nuclear sites or war zones. This is the first time I've heard about this, which that may be the case. But if that was the case, like, how come we haven't heard of that in the past? Like, you would think that's something.
Well, it's taboo.
You know, easy that you okay, bam, that's an easy pattern. Okay, they're at a nuclear site, or bam, at a war zone. That'll be one of the first patterns I would see.
Well, sure,
once
but
I collect all this data.
If that's something that's reported, though,
right?
Yeah, I mean,
and then again, the technology. We're talking about the 80s and before then, right? The technology between. Even now, we're not close. So in the 80s and even a little farther than that, had to look stupid.
Right.
And so, and again, with the internet and with information and how it is openly shared now, I think this was going to occur. Yeah. And I'm glad that we're kind of seeing it happen. That's pretty awesome. Absolutely. And I didn't know that Italy was kind of open about that. I didn't know that they studied that like that.
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody did. And, you know, one of the big takeaways out of that was how much information that those guys were willing to share.
Absolutely.
And
the whole database.
And you know, what the guy, you know, I hate to say it, but I agree with them, but, you know, if this is not, like, let's just take the jump off the diving board and just say this is not another government with advanced technology. Right. And let's just come flat out and say that it is an extraterrestrial life form of some kind with advanced technology that we can't explain.
Right.
We've tried. I mean, Jake, you've probably watched as many or more documentaries and videos on this stuff than I have, and I mean, there's no way to explain in physics terms how to do this. I mean, you look at Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar runs a nuclear testing facility. In, you know, like, it's a small nuclear lab, but I mean, he supplies, you know, elements and things like that. And he's been talking about it since the 80s. And he talks about, and this is a guy that's super smart that built his own particle accelerator, a jet bike, a jet car.
Well, you have these well-established people like Bob Lazar and Luis Elizondo, Tom DeLonge. I mean, they have a lot to lose, really, and for like Luis to actually leave what he was doing, and to face the music, like this stuff needs to come out. I mean, that shows a lot.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like with Bob Lazar, and he always says is, he's like, I had nothing to gain from this. That's why he did it anonymously at first. He was like, I just thought that everybody should know. But one of the things that one of the points one of the guys in the episodes makes is that if we're at this level of understanding, the Italians are at this level of understanding because they are actually like at least taking reports on the things. We're just ignoring all of them and brushing them under the table.
Well, maybe.
No, like that. I mean, I think that my takeaway from that whole thing is that a lot of people say that the U.S. government knows all about these UFOs and they have all this information and they're just hiding it from the public. I tend to agree with the officials in this episode, especially with Harry Reid. I think that like we just don't know. Like we've never investigated it. Reports of anecdotal evidence of reports have come in and they just get swept up. They just get ignored because they don't want to find. They don't want to know what the answers are because how do you? Because then you have to live with that answer.
Right. So you think it's more of like a.
Hold on,
more of like every other government program.
Yeah, let me finish this thought real quick because I don't want to lose it. Mm-hmm. But one of the points that they make is that Vladimir Putin was the former head of the KGB. Now he's the president of Russia. If anybody has information that nobody else has on it, it's that motherfucker right there.
And that's pretty fucking scary.
Right? Exactly.
Him. Yeah.
Like how?
People.
I don't think that.
Unless
we should be
he
careful
owns the
what we say about him
technology,
too.
Well, I don't think so.
Lambasted by
no.
Putin.
So I think that the more logical explanation isn't that they understand the technology more, but they definitely take it more seriously than anybody else because it's just in their nature.
It's scary,
to want to find like they just believe that like. It's not even a belief thing. It's not. They don't scoff at it. Like they're just like, oh, let's investigate it and like, how can we use it to our advantage?
Exactly. That's the point I was going to make, and that's what's scaring me.
Yeah,
him having that kind of technology.
Because
maybe,
I don't think
possibly.
Like listening to the way Bob Lazar talks about it, like I don't think that there's any kind of technology. Like I don't think that there's any way that they could reverse engineer that technology with the type of technology that we have on Earth. Like they'd have to have that.
Didn't they halt the project like 5 years just to wait for the technology to advance and then
Absolutely.
jump at it again?
So that's what I was going to bring up because they do that. What they'll do is they'll say, well, okay, we have this thing that we know generates, can bend space-time fabric. Well, I've got some socket sets. Yeah, that's not going to work out, player. So we've got to put this on chill until the science catches up or the technology catches up, and then we can kind of do this. Because if you remember, that's why Bob Lazar was kind of brought in fast paced, right? Yeah. Because they assumed or they thought that, well, these guys tried to cut open or fuck with one of the generators and it killed everybody in the.
No, that's not what he was saying. I know what you're. No. That's not what he was. I know what scene you're talking about in there. He was making an example of like if so. Basically, Bob Lazar was brought in as a wild card because none of their scientists could figure it out because the government wanted
the box.
They wanted. Hold on. They wanted. The government wanted Bob and his team to try to figure out how to make this antimatter reactor work with elements that we have on Earth, and it's not possible because they needed that element 115. What the scene that you're talking about in that is Bob is making making a comparison to as if we took a nuclear reactor back to medieval times and they had that, then they would it would be like they wouldn't know, it would just be magic to them and they would tear it open trying to look how it worked
so
and it would kill them. Because
yes and no, because he does talk about that. He also talks about taking a motorcycle and doing the same thing, right? Like you would mess with it kind of a little bit and then you might figure out to turn the key, back then,
Right.
and you still wouldn't know what the fuck to do with it, right? So you're right in that sense. But he does bring up a story where I guess Barry, who is the guy that was there
his
when
partner,
he came,
yeah.
so he came in, tells him that there was because
Not gay partners, lab partners.
right, lab partners. But there were different teams, so there was a team working on weaponry, there was a team working on
Right.
what the ship's made out of, there was a team working on propulsion, which is what Bob's team was.
And they won't communicate.
Right, they don't communicate.
Yeah, completely micromanaged.
So he does have some areas that he kind of, stories. You work with people, you hear their stories, right? So Barry told him a story in which one of the former teams tried to open the drive, and it killed whoever was there working on the drive.
That's the reason why Bob comes on board.
That's another reason Bob comes on board. Yes, they do want him for his outside the, Mr. Rocket Honda, but at the same time, that kind of, he alludes to that with Barry. But
okay, I must have missed that story. That's my fault.
no, you're good. But I will say that I think that, for me, I can't say, because you think, going back when you said that, is it your contention that the government, we assume the government, knows a bunch, right? And even Luis, right? He assumed that he and Tom and all these guys were putting all this information together, and then when they come back from Italy, he's like, well, fuck, they may know more than we do.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's really only two scenarios in this. It's either one, the government knows way more than they're leading on to and they're not telling us, or two, our government is so inept that they don't know what we think that they should know, and they're not really covering anything up. They're just too stupid to do anything with the information. And I'm sorry, I'm more inclined to believe that our government is inept.
Right.
I mean,
That's
well, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that, but I'll say something
10
that
years
Tom
ago,
says,
I
though.
probably would have disagreed with that. But I look around our government now, and I'm like, I mean,
well, but here's the other thing too. I'll say something that Tom said. Tom said that, or something that he talks about is that if you say DOD, that doesn't really mean anything, right? Because there's so many departments and agencies and all this other crazy shit that means the DOD. That's really an umbrella term. So who's to say there's not a, crazy branch of that's a part of the DOD that may know a little bit more. I'm not saying they fully understand.
Well, I mean, that was the whole thing that Luis was getting into that last deal where he talks about ATIP, He says, every project that comes up has paperwork that you have to trace that starts the project and that ends the project. And he says, you will never find any paperwork that ends ATIP.
Yeah, no, that's true. I'll touch on something.
That's what he says. And he says there's a lot of animosity for him leaving.
Well, probably. I mean, they have you run that division or that program.
Probably got labeled as a traitor or
right.
some shit.
But I want to touch on something that Pablo kind of brought up.
You think they're going to have child porn
Before you get
charges
to that,
pop up on them?
I wouldn't doubt
Before I
it.
forget, it's like
Shit
I
they
think
don't want to know.
what Rob was saying is about how our government probably doesn't know the technology. They want to know the technology. It's pretty much what Bob Lazar was saying. Like, that's why they hired him in to go through and try to dissect this stuff, right?
Right.
So can you imagine if they unleash this information? Yeah, there's something out there. We're trying to get this technology, understand it, but it's also a race war with other countries to develop this.
Yeah,
now it's going to put
definitely.
a little bit more pressure because we're
Yeah,
But
but
it
it's-
wouldn't be a war unless
like-
they had a spaceship
if-
too.
if
It's
America
like-
had
Parallel with the
that-
space.
Well, it's like Cold War. It's like
With
Cold War
Russia.
version
Exactly.
too.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
Exactly.
here's the thing. Though. Here's the thing, though.
Exactly.
So
You got
let's say Putin knows, right? They've been trying to reclaim the old Soviet Union, like in a major way.
Right.
They say pro-Russian forces, but that's not who took Georgia. That's not who took parts of the
Here we go.
Ukraine.
We're not getting political.
No. It's geopolitical, but sure. So they've taken those areas with these pro-Russian forces.
Right,
If,
right.
I'm just saying, if I had technology that's
They would have that that
I
mentality.
don't
Like
think
you're
anybody
saying,
has
like
that
they would.
technology.
Well, see, no,
right. That's but to the point of saying,
yeah.
I think the show was meant to say that other countries are definitely more open and they're studying this
I'm not
openly.
going by what the show
and they
is
may
saying.
be at a better. They may have a better understanding.
Right. I wasn't
of-
going by what the show is saying. I'm going about why probably this country hasn't come out in the open about it because if they do go public about it, it'll put a little bit of fire under other countries' ass, and
Well-
it'll create, like what Paul said, like the space race, back in the 60s.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Definitely,
And that's why I think I could see that.
Maybe, yeah.
It just seems like.
But what would it do to the stock market? What would it do to? I mean,
I don't
Well,
know.
that's
Like,
exactly.
that's
Well,
a
I mean,
lot of-
world governments. I mean, that's the whole thing. Is like if this were all to hit it all at once, and even Bob Lazar talks about that. What would the implications be?
Right.
I mean, transportation industries, financial industries, all these things would crumble because as soon as this hits, you have why would you buy a car anymore if you can just wait around until we have that kind of propulsion? Or
Well,
why?
hold on, wait. Well, the thing is, I think that'd be like a transitional period. I don't think people would necessarily.
You think that?
No, okay, no.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, no, that's just, if they're gonna, they would, if that option is truly available, and they say, "Oh, I'm gonna wait," I don't think that they'll wait, but they'll still use what we have now. I don't think it'll crumble or economy. I think it's
You'll be
it'll be
waiting
another
forever.
transitional
Well,
period.
that's the whole thing. Yeah, there'll be
Like,
a transition.
it'll
Okay,
be-
look.
Okay.
The way that the economy is set up, though, like if that shit hit whoever patented it first, that's who would make all the money.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it just either way. I don't
Shout
think
out
it would.
Jeff Bezos.
I don't think it would devastate our economy to
It
where
would 100% devastate our
I
economy.
don't think it would. I think it'd be just a trend. It's just gonna have to fucking wait. It's
Well-
just like everything. Like it's just
No, we would
no.
lose
there-
militarily.
You would lose
we would
military.
lose-
Yeah,
I mean,
you
that'd
would
be-
lose all Department of Defense contracts would be canceled. Why would you need all that? Okay, so that's belly up. Well, you're talking hundreds of trillions of dollars that go to defense spending that all of a sudden isn't needed anymore because
ridiculous.
we have all these things now. All this
Well-
technology is out there.
I agree with you,
So,
but for probably a different reason.
and then you have one
So
company. You're going to have
basically-
one or two
okay.
people. Hold on,
Okay.
you're going to have one or two people with the patents on these things. So anything that is outside of that is going to be dried up.
the jump is too big. In other words, I see what you mean. Like from what we have, what we know is our best technology compared to that. I understand your point. I get it
So
now.
the only way that you can really like release that to the public is by saying, okay, guys,
increments maybe.
is you're gonna have a table, and you're gonna have the guy who has all the information, all the stuff here, and you're gonna have you're gonna have Boeing over here, you're gonna have Lockheed Martin over here, you're gonna have Amazon, you're gonna have Google, you're gonna have all these companies out here, and you're gonna say, okay, guys, I'm gonna lay it on the line for you.
Who wants it?
This is what we've got. This is going to come out. We can't hide it any longer.
Oh, okay.
So here's what we're going to do. The only way that we can release this on the public without the entire world economy collapsing, which honestly, anyway, we'll get back to that. But the only way that we can prevent that is by Lockheed, you're going to do this. Boeing, you're going to come out and you're going to come out with this in competition with Lockheed. Lockheed's going to come out with this, and you're going to be like, oh, well, we've been developing this. Oh, really? Amazon, you're going to come out with this, and then Google's going to come out right behind you with this.
And then Walmart, here you come with these.
now all of a sudden, it's not so much like all this technology is being dumped on the table, but after 2 years, it's a race of new technological improvements. Oh, I came out with this cool new technology. This guy came out with this. Then back and forth. Oh, now all of a sudden we're from cell phones to holographic, telekinesis devices, and
That's a huge jump.
It is a huge jump. But think about where if you want to think about
who's delegating this? You're saying the government's delegating this to all the companies?
I would say
You would have to be that way.
or some kind of union of sort.
But
Like
if they have that much
the
power.
world.
They have that much power, and
They
they're
do.
like, I understand
it's
that.
the Illuminati.
But if they have that much.
Fucking- I don't
But if they
believe
have that
that
much
shit.
power, like why go through
the
all that mess
Masons.
and just tell the History Channel you're not airing this shit?
No, that's the whole point. Like they're delegating that. Yes, you're going to release this, and it's just going to be a slow incremental
purpose,
build.
Yeah,
though?
pretty much what
because-
Tom DeLonge was saying.
Because
then.
so that it has to come out eventually.
Well,
You can't hide it forever.
that's
but
Tom
to make it
DeLonge's-
more
Right.
believable,
Yeah.
you release it in increments so that it's more believable.
Well, hold
Yeah,
on. So the
because
government
transition.
So
It's
the military.
easier.
Go ahead,
Spoon-fed.
Paul. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Paul.
I'm just saying, just backing up what he was saying. Just,
Well, I'll say this: I got a buddy who came out of the Navy in the late '90s,
in the Navy.
but he,
Sorry,
they had what you do. The military does it now anyway, right? So they use their technology, and when they have something better, They kind of roll it out.
To the public.
military had cell phones way before.
To the public, right?
Right.
Is that what you mean?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
go on.
When they're done using it.
Well,
Yeah.
and when they
It
have
seems like-
something better,
Yeah.
it would be the same with this technology here. If you were China, if you were any country,
Wow,
you
but-
wouldn't go, "Hey, yeah, I want somebody over here to reverse engineer my propulsion system for these new cars we're putting out." Oh, because by the way, my jets, my whatever new flight systems have all this same propulsion. No, you're going to get that, or if you have that, it's only going to be for your military until they have something better. That's the only
Well, that's
way
the whole
to do
thing
that.
is like, how do you do that without anybody knowing about it? Because you can't just
Well,
be
I'm not
like,
saying you
okay,
do.
I'm going to release this technology let's call it Earth technology and UFO technology.
Okay.
So like you can
Well,
release
the
all
Navy
this.
did it with cell phones.
So you're still talking like Earth technology. Let's talk because that's relatively easy to explain. So how do you release a UFO technology without like breaking it into small, tiny pieces?
you let the science catch up.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, that
Well, no,
and
no,
also,
I agree with you.
But it's
But
also
you let it
there's
catch
no
up to
way
a
you're
certain point.
there's no way that science is catching up because that
Well, there
science
is.
doesn't make sense.
Well, no, it does. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
There has to be so the whole reason that cell phones existed.
Tesla, baby.
Okay,
Nicola.
let me try to break this down for you. The entire reason that like to us we're like, oh yeah, this is a technology that the Navy had or the military had, and then they got something better and they released it to us. That's not how that worked. The whole process was the discovery of certain things, of semiconductors, of microprocessors, things like that. Once you discovered microprocessing, computers started getting smaller and faster. That was the whole Silicon Valley wave in the 1980s. So as technology progresses, things get faster and faster and faster and faster. If you look at, the progression of technology from the 1950s to now, like how big, like think of the jump of technology from the 1900s, from 1901 to 1951.
Right.
And then from 1951 to 2001.
That's huge.
The jump is non-comparable. But when you start thinking about like where we are now with technology, like where else can we really go? You know what I mean? Like, I know this may sound kind of funny and kind of weird, but like from a physics, chemistry, and like electronic standpoint, like this is what kind of I do for a living is looking at kind of things like that. But like, if you really, really look at it, like where else can we go? Like you're talking about things that aren't invented, that aren't even on the cusp of being invented yet.
I asked myself that same question when I saw Blu-ray.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but see,
Then you go 4K.
even
Then you got
Blu-rays
8K coming out.
and 4Ks, all that, it's the same fucking technology. It's just small. It's just compressed more. Like it's not new. This is all things that have been built upon building block. There's nowhere you're reaching a precipice of things that, like, there's nothing new. Like when we went from tapes to CDs, that was a big jump. We haven't had a big jump like that in a long time. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
going to cloud-based.
So we're due for one.
the cloud
do.
based. That's
Well, no, but that's the same thing.
that's what I'm saying. Like
5G is how I have it on my phone.
No,
I
you
saw the
don't.
other day.
5G doesn't
no.
exist.
No, yes, it does. I have a picture. I saw it in the fucking.
It says
Heights.
5GE. That's not
Yeah,
fucking
it's
5G.
not 5GE. It's 5G. It says
It doesn't
5G.
exist.
Well, either way,
We can
it was
have this
implemented on my phone.
conversation.
I'm not saying I just saw
You
it
have
on my
AT&T.
phone.
You have AT&T, don't you?
either way, it says
yeah,
5G.
it's
I'm
a
just
fucking
saying.
lie.
Fucking flat
So,
earthers. Well, but that's the thing, though. It's the same thing as you're right. The science, we haven't had anything where they've said, "Hey guys, we found out the world's round." Oh shit! What?
You
I mean, I
haven't
agree
had a
with you.
big jump in like the technology is ever advancing, but if you really sit down and think about like where technology has gone and where it's come from in the past 10 years, like if you think back 10 years ago, yeah, technology wasn't as advanced as it is now, but like here's a really easy comparison. Start at the iPhones that they've released this year and go back 3 years ago. Okay. what the difference is between them.
I mean, yeah,
it's
facial recognition.
It's not that big of a jump.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
Whereas if you go from 3 years ago back 3 years before that, that's a big jump. We're reaching this precipice of we're coming against a plateau of technology. We're like, processors can only get so fast, like physically. If you know anything about computers, they can only get so fast, they can only get so small, they can only get, because you have physics that dictate things. Like, you know, you have heat transfer and processing speed. All these things are dictated and are dictated by laws of physics in like the atmosphere of our Earth. Like, we can't bypass these certain things. So we're coming up against these brick walls that we can't beat.
So are you telling
and
me-
now all of a sudden, all these things are coming out about UFOs, different kind of propulsion systems.
So now we have new science,
alien
right.
technology. Now we've got new science,
New physics
Like, that's
and
what
new-
I'm saying. Like, in the next 2 to 3 to 5 years,
Yeah, make a prediction.
like,
What do you got?
I'm my guess is like we're gonna start seeing like these huge jumps in technology, things that you can't even imagine, like that have been that will come out, like that
Is it
aren't
2
even
to 5
logical,
years?
that aren't even logical progressions for technology, and it'll seem like nothing because we're used to big jumps like that, but we haven't had one in a while. That's why all these things are coming to light now to kind of like Tom said that he wanted to do. He wanted to, you know, ease that Band-Aid off, make it
Right.
more believable
Right.
that it came from us.
Right, because if you just came out and said, "Oh, hey, Tom, all your stuff in secret machines, that was legit, man. That's coming true." You're right. It would be.
I mean, I think I'm gonna have to disagree with that. I think because
come on.
we've been working on that for so long. Apparently, compared to what Bob Lazar said. I mean, my question was: are you saying that the last like hoorah of technology that you felt that we really made that jump was when we went from analog to digital? Is that what we're trying to say, or like from tape to discs?
No, I mean
they're
yes,
creating
yes and no.
Well, I think generally more he's trying to say that the science, if we focus on the science, right? So the laws of physics are laws of physics because they're laws. They're absolute.
Right.
There's nothing we've done that's been like, hey, here's a new law, or we got to change this law, or oh, hey, we found the
like
fourth
what I'm
dimension,
saying
or
is
we can do this or do that.
I
Well,
mean,
sure.
we can all agree to that, but I mean,
right, but like let me give you another example. Like, you know, we've been talking about computers for a while, right? So, like, if you really think, you know, what was this this conversation that we had the other day when Paul wanted to buy a new computer, and you and I were like, well, why don't you just buy one of these computers and then like this and fully spec it out?
Right.
It's way cheaper. When you look at it, you're like, well, this is almost the same specs as like are available now.
Of course.
You're not getting any because you're about to hit a wall. Because like I'm saying, like with computing speed, like you can only make a micro transistor and a microprocessor so small, you can only make it dissipate so much heat because of just laws of physics. It'll only be, you're going to hit a wall. Like it'll never get past that.
Unless you Bob Lazar it and get out of
as far as we know, like
There's a
with
limit,
what we
basically.
have.
that conversation,
Unless you
we're
Bob
talking-
Lazar it and get out of the box.
Well, we're talking about Apple computers, and obviously they're limiting their new technologies just so they can start, you know, so they can get rid of all whatever they have and not really pump.
Okay.
out.
Oh, so you feel like
but
it's
what I'm trying to,
motive.
what I'm trying to get at, yeah, that's motive for sure. But what I'm trying to get at, like, if you tell me a computer, you can buy whatever you're throwing into that type of computer, you can buy a badass PC computer. But I mean, the technology is there. Like they're already creating 1 terabyte SD cards. I mean, technology
insane,
is progressing. You know,
But no,
but nothing. I know what you
What I-
mean.
no-
I know what you're trying to say.
what you're focusing on is like, yeah, okay, like they're making 1 terabyte SD cards. They've had 1 terabyte SD cards for 8 to 10 years. It's just
Where
the
was I able to-
manufacturing
where was I able to buy
manufacturing
one?
process is so expensive. It's not consumer based.
Okay.
Now they're making it
Right.
more. It's cheaper for them to do that because they've got something else. Well, what's on the? It's not what you can buy now that you have to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
You have to think about
What are they working on?
What are they working on? If
But
this
that one
is so
terabyte-
cheap,
but you're saying that-
like what the fuck are they working on that's making
you're
this so
saying
cheap?
that you know that they had 1 terabyte SD cards back 8-10 years ago. That's based off assumption because
That's not based off of assumption.
Really? Because I mean, everybody in the market with it's like this is unheard of.
No,
Everybody's
that's all marketing bullshit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because like if you know what like an SD card is and flash, like just some flash storage and things like that, it's not the fact that it exists. It's a fact that they were able to make it so that they could manufacture it cheaply enough to make it affordable.
It's like fracking. You don't do it unless the oil price is a certain.
Yeah, it doesn't make
you can do
sense. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they couldn't make a 1 terabyte SD card. It's not like it was physically impossible.
But if you can
it
only
was
sell
just
it for
so
$100,
expensive,
right? If you can only
they'd
sell
have
it
to
for-
sell them for $1,000.
No, they are selling them for like crazy money. I mean, it's not like it's like 40, 50 bucks. I mean, I'm just telling you that it's out in the market. It is expensive, and it's just unheard of. Now, I'm just saying, like, you know, it's the advance in technology. Like, and based on your point of view, is that, or your perspective, is that we already have like 8K TVs somewhere in fucking storage because
The United States Navy, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I mean, and I get it, but I mean, I don't know. I just think that.
Well, I
we've all
think
been
it's-
working. I mean,
what I'm saying is, okay, go ahead.
They had, like, apparently there was flying saucers in hangars in Germany with swastikas on them.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they were talking about. So we've been working on this type of technology for years. Now it's just coming out to the masses, and maybe other people will get their hands on it to work on it. Maybe there'll be more answers to these questions that'll come out. It may, the advancement in technology may come at a faster rate. 2 to 5 years, that's kind of, stretching it. That'd be great, but I mean, it's not like something that we. I don't think. It's
the
very
acceleration.
I want you to look. I want you to look
really
at something. Just think about something real quick. What was the pinnacle of technology? And I'm not saying what everybody had.
Right.
What was the pinnacle of technology in 2014?
That's hard.
Bluetooth. I don't know.
Somebody to go, yeah.
Bluetooth, that was way before.
Well, I mean, like everybody's fucking with Bluetooth speakers. You know,
Yeah, but Bluetooth,
AirPods and shit.
I remember,
I don't know.
having access to that in like 2006
And Bluetooth
or
is a relatively simple technology.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just radio frequency. To be honest with you.
I'm trying to think from what I know in 2014. Man, I don't know.
Did you
man.
know
Like,
that Bluetooth and Wi-Fi operate on this exact
Wi-Fi?
same radio frequency?
I did not.
The Wi-Fi?
What about Li-Fi? You heard about
Wi-Fi?
Li-Fi?
No. Well,
Li-Fi is pretty impressive, but it's not nowhere near to where I know where you're trying to go for it.
You know what I mean?
I
But
can't think anything
You can't
like-
think of anything
Yeah,
groundbreaking.
no.
What's the most groundbreaking technology of last year?
Because
maybe
if you-
Photon
okay.
propulsion.
I mean,
Okay, what even if you probably
The
let's
Tesla
say, let's say
vehicles,
okay,
maybe?
hold on.
That's
Let's say
groundbreaking.
even that's not that
Well,
groundbreaking.
that's what I'm saying. Like
Photon
let's say we come to the
propulsion.
conclusion to like even now, what's like the most groundbreaking technology? And I like either way, I think I see your point. Like it's just like it was stepping like we weren't that far away from like whatever's considered groundbreaking today. Isn't it didn't take very. I don't think it took very long to get there. I know I'm going all over the place. I see what you mean, like that huge jump, that gap.
Yeah.
That's what you're looking for, and I agree. I don't know. I can't think of anything because it took from whatever we have now. Like you said, we've had a long time. It just took a while to get to the public, and for
It just takes
for
a long- yeah.
It just
to
takes a while.
to make it cheap, to manufacture it cheap
Yeah.
enough to make it so that it's you can so that people know about it. I'm telling you, there's technology that Samsung has made that costs $1 million to make this fucking 25K TV with fucking, you know what I mean? Like that there's no way it would be feasible
Or the
enough
new
to
thing.
manufacture, but the technology exists. So what I'm saying is like you're talking about, we have 1 terabyte SD cards and this, we're talking about, and 8K TVs and stuff like that. The shit has been, you're crazy if you think they just figured this out 8 months ago. And no, they just figured, what they did was they just figured out a way to cheaply manufacture it. That's what manufacturing technology is, what drives the pace of technology in general. So if you can't manufacture, people think a Tesla is revolutionary as a vehicle. It's not. It's a battery and an electric motor. Right, but it's not. It's just they have found a way to manufacture.
Exactly, they found a way. That's the progression is what I'm talking about.
But that's just the manufacturer. The technology has existed since the 40s.
But they've developed. They found a way to make it cheaper, right? So there's no progression at all.
But what I'm talking, no, there's not. Well, that's what I'm saying. The electric motor that's in a Tesla vehicle is the almost exact same electric motor that Nikola Tesla patented.
Right, but how come they couldn't make it? What I'm trying to say is that if they had this technology.
Because the Tesla as a company found a way to make it cheaper.
Exactly. Yeah. So how did they make it cheaper?
It just took time to figure it out. I think it was just
there's progression, not necessarily in technology, just progression on making it cheaper. Right?
Progression in manufacturing. Yes, that's what you're getting at. Mm-hmm. So,
not necessarily
but
technology.
Not necessarily in the technology in and of itself. Okay. Now, a progression of technology would be if somebody came out and was like, "Here's a plasma generated engine that drives this car." Holy shit, that's a jump in technology. Nobody's done that. That doesn't exist. Right. You know what I mean? That's the kind of shit like Bob Lazar's talking about. Like if you have an anti-gravity, antimatter reactor, like that's a huge jump in technology that doesn't exist. And you're not going to be able to, put that in a vehicle for any kind of cost.
Right.
You know what I mean? Unless you can manufacture it on a mass scale.
Right. I mean, the stuff they're doing at CERN would be...
Oh man,
groundbreaking.
That's another episode we should maybe cover.
But that kind of innovation is what we've always, recently, been able to do. And you're right in that it's a culmination of science and so much money and R&D. It's fucking stupid, but it's a culmination of that. And yeah, how do we get to, I said it a couple of times, but photon propulsion. Right. And some of the things that Tom DeLonge is talking about. And how do you get all that to kind of, how do you explain the jump? Right. Because what Bob Lazar was talking about, the generator and the things that he explained in the 80s, it would seem and has seemed like fucking magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like if you talk about like the kind of stuff that Bob Lazar was talking about in the 80s, and it seems like fucking science fiction talking about it. 10 years from now, if we had a vehicle that could do that, it probably wouldn't seem that far-fetched.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because but at the time, it does because it's so far removed from what you're used to as technology. Like when you think about technology and like what we're looking at, like what's cutting edge and state of the art, like pull out your cell phone. You're looking at your cell phone. You know what I mean? Like this is a fucking cutting edge piece of technology.
Yeah, we're extensions or
cyborgs.
Cyborgs, yes. You got it, Tesla, baby. Yeah.
But 10 years from now,
Elon Musk
10 years from now, we don't know what the next piece of think about an iPhone. Think about a fucking cell phone in general.
10 years ago, they were amazing. I mean,
what is the next logic thing? I mean, if you were somebody that was like, we need to find the next thing to put into a phone to make it awesome. What are you picking?
Yeah, that's hard to know.
You know what I mean?
From right now.
Can you pick?
Right, because I'll tell you the
foldable screens, holographic images. That's about like that's where you're going next. But like if you know anything about they do have foldable screens. Yeah. But the whole thing about like if you're talking about like 3D and holographic images and things like that, to be able to do that and make it like feasible for people to use in the daytime. It's
and
not
the power it takes to
I mean the battery technology has to it's not there. Right. And the battery technology is not there just in general. Like it's not that like it's not cheap it's not cost effective to manufacture a battery that would do that. Like battery technology doesn't exist that can power that. Well, so you have to like that's what I'm talking about. Like when I'm talking about as far as like what's technologically feasible versus what's like what we consider like this is now like this is we've never seen this before. This is
right, and how the science relates to it.
Exactly. Right. You know what I mean?
I mean, in the transportation industry, look at Rob, but how far cars have come. But not only cars, but we're getting that bullet train, or supposed to be getting this bullet train from Houston to Dallas that'll take your 4-hour drive to 50 minutes or something like
90
that.
minutes.
90 minutes, whatever it is.
I thought it was
But-
less than that. Damn.
No,
that's still pretty good, though.
And it's because they have stops.
Oh,
They have like
that's
one or
why.
two stops. Yeah. So
Okay.
So
But that's not even new technology.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's
And
new.
that's-
I'm just saying from the Model T to that is something that we've been able to do in a really short span of time. If you
100
really look at
years.
time as long
Yeah.
as we've been here. So I mean, the next jump or the next jump is going
Cut it
to
in
have to
half,
be
in a quarter, maybe.
right, and it's going to
gonna
have
get
to be
faster and
science.
faster.
It's going to have to be science, and that's why it's so important to.
Well,
and that's why
that's-
I love that.
So all technology right now is based on, or I should say, most technology now is based on our understanding of physics and
Right, as we-
how natural laws interact with each other, based on propulsion or things like that. So,
Well, what we have
the
and what we
only
know,
the
right.
only logical next jump for humankind as far as technology goes is finding ways to manipulate nature's laws into not being laws anymore. Finding a way to break nature's constants to make our way into the realm of unknown things.
I would also maybe add that it's not necessarily breaking, but maybe understanding that it's been our perspective about what we call laws of nature, and maybe we gain a different perspective that's a little more
I get what you're saying.
fluid. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, and what we call a natural law is just that. It's from a human perspective what we call a natural law because we can't prove it wrong.
Right.
That's why it's a law, and that's why like things like gravity are still theories because when a law has to work on any scale imaginable, and there's still things about gravity that we can't explain on extremely large and extremely small scales. Gravity equations don't work.
Right.
We don't know why.
Absolutely.
That's why it's the theory of gravity. That's why it's still a theory of relativity, because on a very common plane, all the calculations work. But on a very fast or long distances or very short distances, it doesn't. So, like, there's reasons for that. There's got to be, because there's you know what I mean? Like, there
Right,
are,
no,
we can prove natural laws, but that's what I'm getting at is like humans are only capable of designing and manufacturing technology to a certain extent. If like just, I mean, if you think about how small processors have gotten and things like that, like they can only read and write as fast as the speed of light.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's your gravitational constant. You have that's your glass ceiling. You can't go faster than that. Like even if you were found a way to develop a quantum processor that was able to calculate at that speed and transmit data at that speed, like you lose that speed to heat, so it'd have to be frictionless, and heat is generated by the atmosphere. There's molecules and atoms in the atmosphere that light interacts with. So you'd have to do it in a vacuum with nothing in it. And there's all these things that like make it like you get what I'm saying? Like you can only go like we're fast
We're limited
approaching
based on what we
we
know
have,
from his technology.
and we have.
Right, we're
Earth-based
limited
in what we know.
We're
okay?
limited by what we assume are natural laws, and until we find a way to either surmount those or find a way to circumvent those, like your technology is never going to exist past that. And I think that that's where like the whole UFO argument scares people, is because these beings have found a way to do that, and it scares us,
Right. Yeah.
because
we
we
don't
can't
know.
because we can't quantify that equation. You know what I mean? Like to us, we have no, that doesn't work because this, and this. This is our understanding of how things work. You can't. You know what I mean? Like we as humans can't perceive how that would work other than that.
Right, it'd be a mic drop moment.
Yeah.
For sure.
Big time.
It would be, I mean, if you look at it on the scale of human evolution, it'd be like the Industrial Revolution.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like, we were horse and buggies till the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
And then, after that, the Industrial Revolution hit, and within 20 years, we had cars.
Right.
You know what I mean? We went from horse and buggies to internal combustion engines. That's a huge jump. You know what I mean? That's like phonographs
It's Ultra Jacob.
to MP3s.
Right.
Would you say that's ultra what?
Ultra Jacob. What you're describing, because
And
we
those
had this
two brothers
conversation
trying to
years
figure out
ago.
aerial man flight.
Two brothers in a boat.
But that's the thing, though. I mean, so I'll ask a question. So we've watched the series, right? We've had some, I would say, some very productive conversations back and forth on what we kind of think is going to happen next. So let's say our government comes out and says, guys, sorry, Bobby. So his guy was right the fuck on. So we have 9 of these things. We're trying to figure it out. And then we get, and so let's say, what part of the ship, be it weapons, propulsion, what it's made out, like the engine, or the whatever it's made out of, how to survive that kind of speed, the brakes. I mean, all this stuff on that.
Yeah,
ship.
all that shit has to be developed
All
in
this shit has to be
tandem.
developed. So what would be the first thing you work on?
Knowing our government, the weapons.
Amen. Pablo, what do you think? Not the government. What do you?
Oh, what do we work?
So
on?
you're
I-
the guy in there. And,
Oh,
and
I'm
they
the
say,
guy in
"Rob,
there?"
What are we doing with this fucking thing? What are you working on first?
I'm going Bob Lazar style. I'm going on propulsion.
You're going on propulsion.
That's just me. Like,
Right.
I'm going to go everywhere. Yeah,
Everywhere?
Like, yeah, just go everywhere.
But just pick one starting point. Where are you going to start with?
No, I'm talking about like to another planet.
no.
Oh,
He's talking
yeah,
about.
yeah, no.
He's talking about like your
I
ultra
know.
ultra
That's
Bob
why,
Lazar.
no, I'm saying you're doing the
Like-
propulsion system so you can figure out how this thing's going.
Well,
Well,
but you can't.
he-
But you got to stop it too. Once
All right,
it
hold
gets-
on.
I see.
Let me rephrase it for you. Like, if you were brought onto that project,
Got you now.
and you
I got you.
and the government said, Jake, I need you to make a decision. Which
Right.
one of these systems do we dump trillions of dollars a year into
Got you.
In R&D and all
in
that.
R&D to figure out first?
Right. I mean,
What's your choice?
What you doing?
I don't know, man. For one, I don't
Yeah.
know this shit. But two, it's just probably fucking
Sound system. 100%.
Wait, what
I
was
don't
that?
know, man. That's shit. Like
So the suit, maybe
Nah,
that
man,
goes
I'm
in
maybe
the
some
shit.
sort of
Rob.
defense system, like
on.
So the weapons.
yeah, well, not necessarily weapons, but how it goes.
Well, yeah,
like,
bro, that's weapons.
But like how it goes like to like stealth mode and shit like that. I guess I don't know, man. I really don't know what the fuck to answer that question with.
Okay.
What was the question? I'm sorry. I
So
had
Paul,
to
the
go
question
there.
is, the
Yeah, go
government,
ahead,
the
Josh.
government gives you, free reign, and they say, Paul Mooney, come in here.
Pretty sure they wouldn't say it like that. but-
I think so.
I hope
Paul
so,
Mooney.
though.
Paul Mooney, come
Yes.
in here. We need you to. Here's our fucking spaceship, guy. There's all these systems, right? So there's propulsion. There's
Shields.
There's even what's the ship made out of. There's how do we stop this motherfucker?
Life support systems.
Life support systems. Weaponry. All this stuff. What system are you developing? Are you trying to research and back engineer first?
What would I focus
first?
Yeah.
Right?
based
What
on,
would your
on what you
first
tell
focus
me?
be?
Man,
Because you'll eventually
it
go
would
through
be
the whole
depen-
thing.
Like,
but-
okay, based on what you were, those examples right there,
right. And not what you think the government would do, but what would you do?
what would I do? Okay, man, that's a good question. I think I would focus on,
The size of the TV.
yeah.
Where's
Man,
the
'cause,
jerk
like,
off
see,
robot?
okay,
That's
okay.
what I want to know.
Okay, here's the thing.
Where's the pocket?
I
pussy?
think I'd be so stimulated by a lot of those.
Oh, guy.
Come on,
Whoa,
shut
guy.
up! Come on, get out of here.
It's the
You'd
universe.
be so
player.
stimulated by the
Stimulating-
cum on your what?
My mind stimulating. Come on, mental
You want their
stimulation.
space drugs, bro?
No,
Come on.
just. I mean, a lot of those things you said, it kind of fires off a lot of things in my head. I like that.
Right.
No,
I think it just depends what would really interest me at the most. Like a lot of that stuff
Well, yeah,
does, and
that's-
it's
that's
hard
the
to kind of
question.
pinpoint.
First things
I
first, I'm
think-
building an Iron Man suit.
Oh, okay.
If-
100%.
okay.
That's where I'm going.
Capabilities to see what this thing can do, or what it's what can it or
You
I
got
don't know,
one
one thing,
system.
just one system.
You've
okay.
got to prioritize one.
Prioritize is one of them. Okay.
How to turn
I
the
don't
fucking
know,
thing
man.
on? Like, how do you go?
Yeah, it'd be either that
Where's
or like,
the on
or like
switch
how
of this motherfucker?
yeah, like how can this thing travel? How can I navigate? Or if
The files are in the computer?
Okay, basically, if this thing can go, can I don't know.
Travel as fast
I would
as it can?
assume it can be. Yeah, it can travel fast as fuck, and I'm lazy and I want to get somewhere fast. Like, bam, transportation.
So I'm gonna
I
say
focus on
propulsion.
that. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, that's
Then-
what I said.
Okay,
Propulsion
I would
would
focus.
be you.
Yes, that would be me. Yes,
Me too. No, I'm saying I'm with you on that.
That would be
Propulsion, man.
importance to me.
I think the government would focus on weaponry.
Oh sure. Oh,
yes,
sure.
definitely. In their interest, fuck yeah.
But see, that to me
Advantages to
would
countries.
be so dangerous.
Have you ever seen the movie
That would-
Flight of the Navigator?
No,
No.
I've heard of it.
Oh my
But
gosh, what's
see,
Flight
that
of the
would
Navigator?
scare me for interest for other countries. Why would they, if they would
So
not
you can
be
ray
so
the
open
fuck
about
out of
like
them.
if they know anything about UFOs or anything,
Ray.
anything that they had their possession of technology, why would they give it up to anybody else? Like especially if their country and they don't maybe like us, they can use that against us. That's what's scary.
Well,
Depending on the country, depending. I'm just
Yeah,
throwing
but
it
how
out
would
there,
they?
just
But
thinking
how would
about
they
that.
get it? Because that
Well,
would
that's
be
what I'm
we
saying,
would be
like,
so far ahead of them.
Maybe
with-
no. That's what I'm saying. You never know. Like where they can. Maybe there's
Unless,
a fucking
like-
craft that falls in their country. We don't know anything about it.
Nah.
They got their hands on
Unless
it.
fucking Steve
No,
can't
there's-
land the
hey,
thing. No, I'm
nothing
with
is
you.
impossible. It's just highly improbable. All right.
Sure.
Nothing is impossible.
Sure, but
I'm
that's
just
the thing,
saying,
though. If these things are
That's not true, by the
barely
way.
being
That's
Shut up.
if these things are barely being seen, and you can't stop them whatsoever because you can't match speed, how are they gonna? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't see how that. I mean, but never know. I guess.
that's that's a false statement, by the way, Paul.
Thank
I mean,
you.
that's it's
Thank you for calling me out. That's
not
fine. I don't
not
give a shit.
everything is in. There's not. It's a very it's a misleading statement. I mean, there are things that are impossible,
Yeah, Paul.
but the way you have to think about things is that
I think it's about imagination, though.
anything that is once you're presented with all the solutions, no matter how improbable, once you've discounted everything that's impossible, whatever's left, no matter how impossible it sounds, has to be the answer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So Rob would study the improbable machine on board.
Let's get that on there.
The probability machine.
probability machine.
I've
I've
read
calculator.
I've read Hitchhiker's Guide to the
I
Galaxy.
like that.
I love that.
I just
movie.
hope I'm not partnering with you, Rob. You take that fucking life out of the whole project.
Hey,
That would
look,
suck, right?
look,
You're
This
farting
thing is
up,
highly
Rob.
improbable.
You
No,
want to
it's
talk about
impossible,
you want to
fuckface.
talk about jumps in technology. Scientists
Come on.
scientists were able to in the past few weeks isolate a plasma jet
Interesting.
God particle?
on Earth, not in a vacuum, but on Earth. They were able to isolate and maintain a plasma jet.
I don't
You know what
understand
that means?
That's
Exactly.
That's
Please
like
explain.
a miniature lightsaber.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, they were able to. So if
Come on.
light, how does light work? If you shine a flashlight, does it ever stop? No, light keeps going. There's not until it hits something to reflect it back off of. That's why a lightsaber, a beam of light, would never work. A laser is just focused light. So if you were going to try to create a lightsaber, it would have to be some kind of plasma sword, but you would have plasma works the same way. It's basically a fourth form of matter, and it doesn't have any way to stop. Scientists figured out a way this week or 2 weeks ago to make a miniaturized plasma jet and be able to adjust the focal length of it so that it is self-contained. It's very small. I mean, we're talking, millimeters.
That's
Paul's
so
penis
impressive,
size, yeah.
though.
The amount of energy it took to do was goddamn impressive. But the fact that it's possible, even on a miniature scale, means that it could possibly be scalable with the right power source.
So right now it's a badass butter knife, but like in the future it could
And
be.
it's not even a badass butter knife.
That's ultra Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah.
The knife that
Oh,
light,
yeah.
that burns it, or
Yeah, and it
toasts
toasts it,
Yeah,
yeah.
there you go. Yeah,
Ultra
That's
butter
what I
knife.
thought of when he said that.
Yeah.
That's a jump in technology.
Yeah,
Give
you're
me a
You know what I
blowtorch.
mean?
Check out my fucking lightsaber.
Yeah. If there's a possibility for teleporting, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I don't know.
So
that
teleportation.
I know that that's going off. But
Teleport home. I gotta fucking work tomorrow.
I know, right?
Oh, okay. And on that note, I guess
We done? We signing off?
I don't know. I wasn't trying to sign
We
off.
done?
we're fast approaching our sign off
limit,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Final thought.
So yeah. All right. Well, let's go around final thoughts. Look, Jake, final thoughts.
They exist. Luis and Tom told me so.
Luis.
No, it's Lou.
Lou, I know that's heard that shit.
Hey, make sure you look to the blinds.
Well, I
Josh's
mean,
favorite
Walk
part.
around in the
I'll
snow.
it could be two things.
Walk around
Interpret it
the
how you
snow.
want.
Okay, go ahead.
It could be defining, giving us the satisfaction of releasing some of this information to the public, and it's something to be excited about. Or
You're saying it's a jerk off.
Misinformation.
Jerk off fist?
or it could be
The
that.
public release of information.
I see how you can interpret that. But no, or it could be the government's like, hey, you know what? Let's go, chase them down this rabbit
Throw him a
hole.
bone.
And,
Or it could be a fictional TV show, and we
Exactly.
could all be wrong.
Misinformation.
Exactly.
Could be just as
They-
informative
people
as
are-
Power
Well,
Rangers.
that's a
That
whole
takes on
nother.
different forms.
Well,
scary.
episode 5, they talk about, Luis Elizondo talks about, like, that's what he did was
He was trained in
misinformation.
misinformation.
He was trained in misinformation, and they ask him,
That's true.
what is.
He couldn't talk about it, but
Well, he was basically, they were like, it doesn't lend a whole lot to your credibility and the whole credibility of this whole project.
Exactly.
The fact that you were doing nothing but misinformation your entire career. And now, how do we know that you're not, this isn't one giant
fucked up.
misinformation campaign?
I asked myself that very question when I
That's
heard
true.
that comment.
If anybody knows, he would know himself.
I'm
be the
glad
king
that
of it.
I'm glad that they
Wow.
addressed it on the show, though.
Right? No,
Because-
they also
Yeah,
dirty
makes sense.
laundry.
You don't know. The truth is out there.
Yeah, Mulder.
Yeah, so your take, Josh? Joshy?
So I mean, the thing is, there you go. So no, I mean, I've always kind of believed that it's a little bit, like they say in the last episode, it's kind of mathematically naive and a little bit arrogant to think that we're the only life in the universe. But where are we in that? Where are we? Are we the ones that are on the cusp of figuring out how to get to other worlds, or are they already here? I don't know. I definitely don't think that it's for me, in my perspective, I definitely don't think that the idea of it being other governments, I don't think that's, for me, it's not a possibility, just because I feel like if you had that, it's such a big ass leap
Right.
that
Big
you would
time.
just, the world would be Russia
course.
or whoever owns
right.
it, So,
So you think these are like these aliens on a Vegas vacation trip?
right.
Let's go to Earth.
Let's go to Earth. They
Okay.
can't see us.
Say Vegas vacation like the movie.
Let's go probe some guys. They'll get cancer and die. But fuck it.
I don't know.
No.
I tend to disagree. Like, Italy has had reported one hostile attack, and we've seen lots of paranormal things happen with cattle mutilations and things like that.
How
But
much alcohol have you drunk when you're on vacation, man? Do you not do some stupid shit when you're on vacation?
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm
I had
saying
a Zor
is
beetle
that
and fuck these cows.
I have
all
a
up,
feeling.
bro.
I have a feeling that if I can travel distances, intergalactic or interdimensional distances, like alcohol is not one of those things that, like,
Well, no, dude, it's a Zor
getting
beetle.
down with
Come
it.
on, calm down.
you know what I mean? It's.
That's why you gotta get the weed. I understand.
I'm sorry, but I feel like
Earth got good weed.
any aliens that are coming to Earth are here
just
on a
figured out
strictly
gummies.
fact finding.
so bad.
They're keeping an eye on us and making sure that we're not reaching. I feel like they're here to keep us from reaching a certain precipice of technology, to keep us from being able to contact them, because once we cross that threshold, like, humanity and and is going to change for good. And maybe they want us to go down and not reach that, because that will save the world, that will save humanity, and they want us to exterminate ourselves so that they don't have to exterminate us.
Ooh.
Hashtag Independence Day.
Interesting,
Hashtag
David.
Independence Day. I think
Very
for me though,
interesting.
I just think if you were gonna see if you traveled here and you thought, man, fuck, well, let's see what these guys are all about.
Yeah.
Oh shit, they kill each other greatly.
You turn the volume down, dummy.
I did.
Go ahead.
They kill each other in masses, they exploit each other in
know why that's
amazing ways, and they're just terrible. Yeah. But their Facebook lives look fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I don't want to hang out with these fucking people, or they're primitive.
Maybe they're
to
mad
us.
because they tried to go to Firefest.
Maybe, but they're primitive. I would go. These guys are fucking primitive to us, man. Fuck these guys. But at the same time, I just don't think that. I don't know, man. For me, I just feel like we're. I feel I kind of agree with you in that I feel like we're on the cusp of something.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's alien species or whatever out there going, now fucking Barry almost figured out jet propulsion the other day. We got to stop that guy or whatever the science is. But I don't know. We'll see.
Interesting. Hey, Paul
Mooney.
To make it short, because you still got Rob behind you.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you went.
You got some long winders here. Sorry about
no.
that.
I'll be quick. I just.
That was pretty fucked up, by the way.
Oh man, nice, Rob. I
Really.
yeah. To make of all this, yeah, I do agree on what Luis Elizondo was saying. Like it's a breakthrough.
Wait, one more time. Say his name.
Elizondo,
yeah.
No
Like
name's gooey.
No name's gooey.
Like he said it himself, like it's a breakthrough. Like after like a year and a half of like what they've been doing and that they were pushing to get this, get it out there. Just try to figure out what the fuck is going on, and just especially that one particular Tic Tac, whatever it is, what it is, but they're making headway, and it's just like I said earlier, going back to the transitional period of us releasing the information, them releasing the information to us, almost spoon fed to where we'll get used to it, and hopefully maybe they'll figure out how to use the technology, whatever we can use it to our advantage, and we don't know. Maybe we'll come in contact with these these beings that are responsible for this technology,
bomb ass Zork beetles,
and let's hope it's not it's not bad. They're not bad, but we don't know till we can find out.
I think
we don't know till we fuck them.
But I think either way, we're making headway. It's slow.
Are we giving or are we
but
getting
it's progress,
headway, Paul Mooney?
basically. That's nice. Thank you, Rob. Awesome.
Only if we can present Paul
Rob.
as our
Thank
earthling.
you. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Only if we can
you're
present
great.
Paul as our earthling.
They don't get that.
I know they won't get it.
No.
It's Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
Twin Peaks.
Fucking loser.
Thank you. David Lynch is proud.
All right.
Go ahead, Rob. Sing on.
I mean, I've already kind of said my piece, but I mean, my whole take from this is that I think that, like I said, I think we're on the cusp, we're on the precipice of something big. Something's gonna either somebody's trying to keep us, either it's like Ultra X-Files conspiracy theory where somebody's trying to keep us from knowing the truth, or like our government is just so inept they can't do anything. Like they don't know what they're doing with this information to begin with. And so either Luis Elizondo left the ATIP program because he felt like there was more to the story that the government wasn't letting him investigate, or he left because they were asking him to cover up things he wasn't comfortable covering up. And he hasn't come flat out and said which one of those two it is. He just said that he left on moral reasons.
Well, he's got a security clearance he's got to protect. So.
Yeah, well, he does have a security clearance. Hell, I've got a security clearance, bro. It ain't high. But
I do too, brah.
Anyway, so, I mean, I guess, only time will tell, really. So, it's, it'll be interesting. I really do think that the next 5 years will be some of the most interesting technological breakthroughs.
So I think even less, probably, just the way, the
I'm
pace.
just saying.
So you felt positive. You feel positive. You felt positively about the show, though.
I think that I do. Okay. I did feel positive about the show. I think that it raised a lot of questions that needed to be raised. It didn't answer any questions, but it did. I like the fact that they didn't come right out and say, like, there are alien beings in our atmosphere fucking with us. You know what I mean? They basically left it as they're unidentified flying objects or unidentified aerial phenomenon that need to be investigated some, to an extent. So, I mean, if you just leave it at that, you're like, yeah, I mean, they do, like, they make a valid case for they do pose a national security threat.
Right.
Because we don't know what they are. Are you going to vomit? All right.
Because they've just come out and said, hey, we don't know what it is. And what? Now what do we do?
Exactly. Like, we don't know.
Now what do we do?
So, I mean, it's...
What do you think about Luis's cigar?
That's beautiful, man.
I can't handle.
It was hard.
I can't handle that guy.
Josh
doesn't like the cutscenes where the
Josh
filler,
has a thing.
Because
blame
this
him.
motherfucker is on the beach in a sweater looking off.
And the blinds, right?
You know, he's going to have Luis in a gold chain with some clouds.
The B-roll transitions.
In a tie-dye
The
t-shirt
fucking
that
music.
says Luis right there.
Tie-dye.
With his mom and his girlfriend and shit. Like, come on, man. In some 1940s Harley military bike.
That's right. They showed him a couple of scenes.
Get in, baby.
That's this.
I'll take you to Area 69. Come on, girl.
69. Now, folks, here's the part where we talk shit about the fucking show.
There we go.
Woo! That's it. The end.
And his soul patch.
Soul patch. Oh, yeah. It's a thick
Oh,
one.
that's
He's
got a big soul.
Yes, he
That's
does.
a soul patch.
That's terrible.
What?
Oh, and on
Is
that
that
note,
Bigfoot? Is that Bigfoot?
No.
Stranger Things.
No. Yes, it is. I hear it now. I heard the arpeggios coming into.
You can edit this part out, right?
baby.
Pablo, you can edit this part out, right?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
My
It's on
man.
his- I'll just
This
mute
is the best
Rob.
part of the episode.
That's it.
All right. I guess
I'm
on that
clapping.
note,
Yeah, I was trying to sign off like
I look like
All right, go
11 from Stranger Things.
I'm Jake.
Because my
I'm
hair.
Big Josh.
And I'm not 11. I'm Paul.
I'm Rob.
I'll bleed for the nose
Good night.
every now and then. Good night.
Fucking dick.